Going live right now. Give me 1 second so I see this has confirmed. And it's still loading. There it goes. Alrighty. Okay. And we are live. Great. So, I'm live right now. Give me 1 second so I see this has confirmed. There we go. All right. All right, well, thanks everyone so much for joining the first Eagle Valley Green Building Group meeting of the year. It's really great to see all of you. I'm really excited. Hey, thanks, Martin. We're going live on YouTube, so this will actually get posted to the Walking Mountains page, and then I'll share a YouTube link out after with everyone. I'm really excited to host our first event of the year, which is our Green Building Challenge. And so just a bit of background on the Eagle Valley Green Building Group. We started 3 years ago now in an effort to bring together green building professionals in the Eagle Valley and surrounding regions to share stories about the work that they're doing, share best practices, resources, all of that good stuff, and really start to build a community around furthering sustainability through our built environment. Barry Monroe, who is B Monroe on your screen, is the co-chair of our group. And so if you have any questions about this group, how often we meet, if you haven't been here before, please let Barry or I know. We're happy to help. And our goal is to host one event a quarter. COVID kind of threw a wrench in that last year, but we're hoping to get back on track this year. So thanks all for being here. And with that, I think we'll just kind of dive into today's presentation. So the focus of our event, the Green Building Challenge, is really just an opportunity that we wanted to pull together once a year for all of our partners to share stories, sustainability stories of things that they tried to implement over the last year, things that worked, things that didn't work, any lessons learned, and just kind of, make sure that we're really promoting that sharing and learning culture. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to close my door here. With that, we've got 5 amazing presentations today, and the sort of unintended theme of our meeting is beneficial electrification, which is pretty cool. It's kind of been a hot topic of the last year, at least in the crowds that I run in. And so we'll be hearing from 5 different presenters on their tales of electrification and how they went today. So we're going to start with Tim Braun from R&H Mechanical. And I will go ahead and share his video in a second, but his project is called Net Zero Conversion Over Time. And they're going to highlight a small project where R&H is trying to make an existing standard residential home net zero over time. The project came from adding a breezeway and a lock-off to the home, which required 2 more zones to the current gas-fired HVAC system. And the first step was putting in a cold climate heat pump system and in place of the current gas-fired furnace. So talk about the pros and cons of the process. And then after the video, I will go ahead and let the audience ask questions of Tim and the project. So with that, let me go ahead and share my screen here. You guys can all see a truck, an R&H Mechanical truck, and out front of a house. All right, here we go.
Hey, Tim Braun here. Just want to talk to you a little bit about a cool project we have going on to take a standard residential home and see if we can convert it into a net zero home. This project all started when the owners wanted to install a breezeway that connected the home to the garage so they wouldn't walk in snow. But hey, while we're at it, let's go ahead and put a lock-off in so that we have some affordable housing. If you look, we plugged the gas and went ahead and installed a multi-position air handler from Mitsubishi that is serving the main house. And that branch box right there is actually coming from the outdoor unit. It's feeding the main home as well as the breezeway that you can see here is very well insulated. But we installed a easy ceiling cassette unit in this space. This is the outdoor unit that's serving both of those zones. And this system will go down to negative 13 degrees, and we're just testing to make sure that it does what it says it will. We're up in the lock-off now. This is a ducted system that you can see the insulator's got a little bit of crazy with the insulation up here, and we got some cleanup to do, but all in all, it's very well insulated. It's serving the entire lock-off from the ducted system, and works really well. On the outdoor unit, you can see it's a hyperheat system just like the other. The big opportunity we have to go net zero is solar generation on the roof. Any connections there would be greatly appreciated. Some of the issues we had were these wall brackets causing a little bit of vibration when we were starting up the system. Also, with adding square footage to the home, got to consider the amount of power that's going to these homes. But all in all, system went really well. We could have gotten the equipment a little bit faster, but awesome project altogether. Thank you for all that you do, and thank you for listening, and have a great day.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Tim, for that fantastic video. Great overview. Tim, I'll pass it over to you to share any additional details on the project that you'd like, and then we can go ahead and open up for questions.
Yeah, no, first off, sorry for the kind of straightforward video, because my 13-year-old daughter helped me put that together, and she was like, "Dad, you can't be too crazy and whatever." I'm like, "Okay, I got it." So she was cool about it. But anyway, great project as far as it goes. It's actually come a lot farther than that right now, but it kind of gives you some sense of what we were kind of initially doing and looking to move forward with a net zero home. And I think that's really what's going to move the needle the most for our Climate Action Collaborative, is really getting these residential homes, converted over so where we're not, burning fossil fuels and getting away from that with beneficial electrification. But any particular questions you have about that project or anything on your mind? I'm open-minded.
I see this has confirmed.
But how many winters has that system been in for?
Great question. Yeah, no, we actually just installed it just maybe a month or two ago. And so the first night that we installed it, it was negative 6 degrees outside, and it held up just fine. So we want to make sure that it's working. It does have a backup electric heat on the main home. So we're just doing that just to be cautious about it. But yeah, it's just the first winter.
Tim, I saw the roof insulation. Did you guys need to enhance any other envelope insulation systems to get your loads down?
Yeah, I ended up, just doing some regular sealing and stuff like that, just for getting a better envelope on the whole project. But ultimately, they did a pretty thorough job for sure with the insulation package that we got with that project, and it did help keep our loads down and some of our costs as well. So that worked out pretty well.
Tim, Mary dropped a question in the chat, which was, what was the installed cost?
That's a very good question as well. So, obviously we were trying to use this one as a test location. And so, I donated a lot of my personal time into it and that type of thing. Roughly $18,000, with all the equipment and the multiple zones would be kind of a ballpark number there. But typically it's going to be a little bit more than that. If you're depending on the power and drain and everything else that you have access to. So in this particular case, it was pretty readily accessible because we had walls open and so on and so forth, as you saw. Good question.
All right, then we got another one from Martin in the chat. On improving the envelope, did you do a blower door test before and after the installation?
We did do a blower door test because that was part of the whole project with Walking Mountains to be able to get everything going. And we have not been able to do the follow-up blower door test at this point. So that is something that needs to be done. We're still kind of mid-project, for lack of a better word. We're not quite done yet. So,
Did you do a manual J?
yes, that was definitely one of the requirements as well, and full manual J and manual S and everything with R&H engineering to be able to design that system. And like I say, so far it just purrs. I mean, it's super quiet. So we've been impressed so far.
Hey, Tim, this is Vance with Eagle County, the building department. We're at -20 we have in our resolutions on any new single families for outdoor temp. Would you be able to come up with that? Or I know this is a retro, so we wouldn't push that, but on a new single family, we would require it -20.
And Vance, that's an excellent point. And so with these new cold climate heat pumps, that you can see the ratings, it derates down to like -13 degrees. But, we've heard that they will produce heat even further down and lower than that. But in this case, we have backup electric heat. And so at a certain point, when the cold climate heat pump's not able to keep up, that backup electric heat will come on.
So if I can just add, like at the Aspen, the Gantt added a bunch of Mitsubishi cold climate heat pumps a couple winters ago. They were working at -20. So the manufacturers are always, and Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, the manufacturers are always going to say, okay, it goes to -13. We're not going to guarantee anything more than that. But I know they go colder than that. But they just don't want to take liability for anything. But what I've seen in Holy Cross's territory, they are working at much colder temperatures than the -13.
Yeah, and then to Mary's point, designing these systems properly is critical to making sure that they'll work, down to those lower temperatures. So that manual J and partnering with the right people is critical for that. But we are testing it, so I'm not going to go out on a limb and say, yeah, they go down to that. So we as engineers have to follow protocol and have backup heat when you've got a cold snap that could potentially come through for -20, to Vance's point at this point. But I've heard of more new technology coming where different refrigerants are going to be able to get us even lower. So it's on the horizon for sure.
How many ducts in the main house do you have?
It's just a single zone system in the main house.
How do you move the heat around?
It's just a ducted system. Yeah, it's just got an upstairs, 2 bedrooms upstairs and a bathroom, and then a bedroom downstairs, and there's actually a 3rd level basement. That's all through that ducted system. So if you saw that first unit, that is a direct replacement for the gas furnace that was heating that home, and it was just a multi-position air handler that's for that outdoor unit.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tim. I'm going to move us along since we've got 5 presentations, but great presentation and great questions, everyone. Tim, if you wanted, you could drop your info in the chat for if folks had any more questions, or feel free to continue to ask those questions in the chat as we move on to our next presenter.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for the questions.
Awesome. So our next presentation is on the BEACH initiative, which stands for the Beneficial Electrification of Eagle County Housing Initiative. And in 2020, Eagle County Sustainable Communities team collaborated with Northwest Colorado Council of Governments and Energy Smart Colorado at Walking Mountains to provide beneficial electrification for Eagle County housing, aka the BEACH initiative. So far, BEACH has completed weatherization improvements and replacement of gas combustion appliances with high efficiency electric appliances in 3 mobile homes. Oh, and sorry, I lost my script. There we go. And 3 mobile homes with the goal of 20 more happening in the spring of 2021. Benefits for residents include improved comfort, health, and safety, lower utility bills, and decreased greenhouse gas emissions. Our presentation, or the presentation, will describe partners' retrofit process, equipment, costs, and results. So thank you, John Gitchell from Eagle County and Doug Jones from the Northwest Colorado Council of Governments. I will pass it off to you guys.
Okay, thanks, Kim. I'll go ahead and start off just a little bit about mobile homes. these are the most affordable, lowest cost homes in our region. Mobile homes can be purchased. They don't often come on the market, but they can be purchased for as little as $30,000. They rent the space on which they sit can rent for as low as $600 per month. But they can also be really unsafe, even dangerous, uncomfortable, and expensive to heat. The potential for this project is pretty big. There's 1,500 mobile homes in Eagle County alone, and over 80,000 mobile homes in Colorado. I do want to say that our close friend and colleague Seth Bossum was deeply involved in this project, and he helped with all aspects in the planning and also in the energy modeling, and just in his way of overall thoughtfulness and care with every step along the way. So yeah, with that, I'd like to introduce Doug Jones. Doug is the director of the weatherization team for Northwest Colorado Council of Governments, or Northwest COG, as they're known. Their programs deliver services to income qualified families in 13 different counties across northern Colorado, including Eagle County. And Doug and his colleague Nate have been leading this weatherization group for over 20 years. So I want to turn over the presentation to Doug and say thank you for being here today, Doug.
Thanks, John. See if I can't pull this off. All right. So basically the beach project is bringing beneficial electrification to Eagle County residents, low income. It's bringing different funding sources together to provide beneficial electrification to low income clients in Eagle County. We started talking about this in February of last year, and then of course the virus hit and we took a big break. And then we really got on it this summer, and we were able to pull off 3 mobile homes, capping off the propane and installing a nice beneficial electrification package. Our partners are Eagle County, Energy Smart, and Walking Mountain Science Center, Colorado Energy Office, the Holy Cross Energy, of course, and the Mirabus. So the way this works is we get people signed up for our program, qualified individuals who are low income. The Dotsero mobile home park was just the perfect place to try and do this because they're propane, they have a high fuel cost, and there are people in need there. So the Mirabus did some great outreach events for us, and we got people signed up, and their staff was really great. They reached out to the homeowners there, and you know, we basically had Matt Parker from Walking Mountains come out and help people get signed up. So it was fantastic. Basically, the typical mobile home we worked on, the families, 2 out of the 3 mobiles we worked on were heating with electric space heaters because their old propane furnace was broken. They had no incentive to really get that fixed. And just because of the high fuel cost anyway, they're paying so much money to heat their home every month. Why not just use electric space heaters instead? And so that's what you see there. There's the old mobile home furnace that was just worn out and tired. And they were taking electric space heaters out and moving them with them from room to room as they were in the different rooms every day. The process was we went out and did the weatherization assistance program, which is what we're good at, where we go out and we save energy on low income households, basically throughout 13 counties in Colorado, in Northwest Colorado. So we go out and do a thorough energy audit. We add measures that save energy like insulation and LEDs and storm windows. After that was complete, then we had DJ Electric out to upgrade the electrical system for us, right? So it started out as a 100 amp service, and that wasn't enough to run our beneficial electrification package. So we ramped it up to 125 amp service. A few of the breaker boxes had to be replaced. One of them was about to catch fire when we showed up to look at it and melt. So that was a nice upgrade to pull off. Then we installed the beneficial electrification package once we had the foundation of the electrical in there, with a cold climate air source heat pump, a heat pump water heater, and we did a nice induction range with new cookware too, to have them have some buy-in and set them up for success. We had the first three, we used two great contractors, DJ Electric out of Eagle. His family, we got lucky with DJ. His family actually ran all the electrical for this park back in the day when they were building this park. So he knew all the ins and outs and was a great, great partner to have. And then we also had Diamond H Enterprises and Sam come out, and he put the heat pumps in, he put the heat pump water heaters in, and then we came in behind all that and put in the induction ranges. And along with that, we trained with Sam so that now we're up and running and we have our staff trained. So now we're going to be able to do this in-house and basically lower our cost. So that's the outside unit. The way these work is that, they take heat out of the outside air and basically deliver it to the inside air with a refrigerant line. So the technology is just pretty much amazing. There's a water heater. That was a bit of a challenge because of the tight closet we worked in, but we got it done. We had to make some adjustments to the closets. We basically insulated them, air sealed them, and pressurized them so the cold air went outside of a damper that was emitted from the heat pump water heater. The water heaters we took out of there, they're around $400 or $500 a year for domestic hot water, right? That's how much they pay. Well, these heat pump water heaters from Rheem, it costs about $100 is what the sticker says per year for domestic hot water. So that was a nice improvement. And then there's a nice induction range. That's also an ASHRAE range hood above it. So we put some added ventilation in there for indoor air quality. We also upgraded their bath fans. Most of them were broken, so we added some ventilation in there for them. The original ovens were producing right around 80 parts per million of carbon monoxide. And that was just coming right out into their house. There were no exhaust fans. And in a tight little mobile home, that can really lead to some bad effects, coming off of that. So it's nice to get that out of there. So when we were done, we capped the propane off to these 3 mobile homes. And it was just extremely rewarding, that moment where you put the cap on there and cap off that carbon-based fuel. The tank you see there is about a 10,000 pound tank. And they have 2 of these at the front of the mobile home park. So it was really nice to cap that off. We eliminated the potential for gas leaks and carbon monoxide. Moving space heaters from room to room, it's only a matter of time before something bad's going to happen. And we saw some pretty bad conditions with the existing electrical that we were able to fix in the process of upgrading their electrical. So that was really nice too. This is one of the mobile homes that we're currently on. This is our 5th one. And we found a propane leak on a propane stub underneath the mobile home. So it was just pooling under this person's mobile home and was a huge, huge safety hazard. So we found it, the park dug up the line, capped it off, and now we're in the process of adding the beneficial electrification package. So energy savings. We installed these, we got the whole package done basically middle of December. So we've had 2 full months to evaluate electric savings. So first mobile home, right? They were heating on space heaters. If you look at their 2020 utility bill here, $329 over 2 months. And LP liquid propane was $26 over 2 months because they were just heating on electric. And so for February and January and February of 2021, they actually saved $88. Number 2 and number 3, you see some more significant energy savings there. So over 2 months in these 2 mobile homes, one of them saved $273 and $295. So talk about improving their lives and having a safe living situation there as well. It's really been a nice success.
Can I ask a question, or do you want me to wait to the end?
I have 2 more slides.
Okay.
All right. So overall benefits, just to recap, we're helping out low-income families, improving their indoor air quality, upgraded and safe electrical now, eliminated the risk of propane with gas leaks and carbon monoxide, and we're seeing great energy savings, eliminating the combustion of fossil fuels and related greenhouse emissions. And now this is a repeatable project. Now that we've designed it, we can move on to the next, 2, 3, 5, 10 mobile homes and be able to do this. And then the real great part is we wanted to inspire others to be able to do this as well. So we cover 13 counties, and we've had 4 different entities reach out to us and heard about this project. And we look forward to rolling this out outside of Eagle County in the near future. And then, as John mentioned, we want to recognize the contribution that Seth brought to this project. We met every week, and he was a big part of the design of this project. And so we just want to say thank you, Seth. And that's it. Questions?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Morgan, go for it. Yeah.
Thanks. And thank you for that last slide. Really appreciate that. So you're talking about the energy savings, and I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about, why there's energy savings between natural gas and electric, and also if, how that compares to kind of the initial upfront cost, if you have to kind of put more in at the front to realize that long-term life cycle cost.
So it was definitely a combination of things. The first thing is they're on a high fuel cost to begin with. Between electric space heaters that are inefficient and propane, it didn't matter what they really did. They just saw dollars flying out their window. So we could really do anything in these mobile homes, and we were going to save energy, right? So, I think putting the right system in was a big factor, and also giving client ed about how to use these systems was really, really important. The first month we put them in December, one of the homeowners there were really used to turning their furnace off or turning the heaters off when they went to work. And then when they come home at work at 6 at night, they would just crank the heat up and warm their house back up. Well, they did that for a couple of weeks with their air source heat pump, and that's not the way to do it because it's more of an even flow of heat. So once we, getting energy bills and being able to look at that, we were able to identify that fairly quickly and give them more client aid about, hey, you really need to watch how you're using this. So I think, the insulation package, the air sealing we did blower doors. Most of these units started out around 2000 CFM, and we lowered them to about 1200. We also sealed the ductwork under 1 Pascal of duct leakage. So that was very important. And then the insulation package as well. So now we have efficient, safe electric heat with a well-insulated home.
Doug, I have a question about the savings and the weather data. Did they normalize, or did you guys normalize the weather data to see if the 2020, 2021 years were equivalent?
So January was pretty much the same. January 2021 versus 2020 was the same temperature for the month.
Mhm.
In February 2021 was 2 degrees warmer. So that definitely has a little bit to do with the energy savings there. And also it was a leap year, so we had 1 less day. So we definitely benefited from that.
Thank you.
Good question.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Doug. If you guys have any more questions for Doug or John, please go ahead and drop them in the chat. And if you guys want to throw your contact information in the chat so people can connect with you guys, that would be awesome.
Thank you.
All right. So on to our next presentation of the night. This presentation is going to be given by Chris Lammers, and this is about his green dream home. So the presentation will focus on designing and building his green dream home. Say that 5 times fast. The culmination of 20 years of personal research, discussions, and experiences. And the presentation will feature some discussion, or I guess the dream home will feature an all-electric home with an air source heat pump, passive solar design. 50% of the electric is produced on site. It is as well super insulated. Parts of the exterior wall were made with straw bale construction. They have an attached food-producing greenhouse as well to wrap it all up. So with that, Chris, I'm going to pass it off to you. And thanks so much.
Thank you, Kim. Thanks for bringing us all together today. So let's see, I just hit share screen, or what do I do?
Yep, that should take it over. Here we go. I can see it.
Okay. Perfect. Well, thanks, Kim, for bringing us all together today. It's great to hear other people's stories, and see you again, Doug and John. For you guys who don't know me, my name is Chris Lammers. I lived in the Vail Valley since 2003. I've worked for a few local general contractors and subcontractors. I currently work for Vail Custom Builders as a project manager. However, I'm here to tell you about my story of designing, building my green dream home located in Wolcott. It's located on 40 acres in Horse Mountain Ranch. I've been pursuing this dream for about 20 years with the goal of building the best green dream home I could think of. I tried 2 prior times, but wasn't really too successful there, and happy to say my 3rd time. I now have a new home for my family, and also a separate home for my dad, which we're now starting to rent on VRBO and showcase a green home to anybody who wants to come stay with us. So here's my primary house. In my 20 years of home building and studying emerging green technologies and getting a bachelor's degree in construction management, I tried starting a straw bale home, building design, and I've been touring green homes and earthship homes, attending many green building conferences. I'm lead AP, and I've managed a few lead projects when I was at RA Nelson. Some of the great things working some great builders around here is we get to work with some great designers and architects. And kind of bringing that all together, I was able to design my own house. Here's the house for my dad, located on the same property. It has many of the same features as my primary house, but I'm just going to talk about the primary house, as we live there and I've now been there for 2 winters and can really talk more about how it's performed. So in 2014, I saw an opportunity in Horse Mountain Ranch, and I purchased a 40-acre lot with big mountain views to the south, which was an ideal location for a passive solar design. I was lucky enough to install a 15-gallon per minute well before closing, which is pretty difficult for that area. And it provides us with a lot of opportunities for a food-producing landscape. I then spent about 3 years designing and estimating, bringing my architecture through structural engineering. And in April 2018, I broke ground and started one of the most exhausting and rewarding things I've ever done in my life. But by June 2019, I had a new home and I was ready to move the family out of a small condo in Avon out to Horse Mountain Ranch. I thought it'd be best to start off with how I approached the overall design and how the homes fit onto the lot. I'm then going to go into some of the green building topics and as they relate to each other, and help show, clarify some pictures. I'm more than happy to answer questions at the end of the presentation, or you can feel free to email me later on if something else comes up. So when I bought the raw piece of land here, you can see it. I'm kind of located in this area here. I started bringing out some materials from past job sites that I wanted to incorporate into my job that I didn't want to see go into dumpsters. And so the new home site's going to be located right about here for the primary house, and then for the secondary house right about here. So kind of the first thing we did was get a topo map so we could kind of see what we're dealing with and how I could squeeze a driveway in and best home location. So as you can kind of see now, north is kind of straight up the page and due south is straight down. And you can see the lot is kind of gently sloping towards the east. So I wanted to kind of work with that topography here. And you see on the topo map, we're located at 7,800 feet, which is kind of a high elevation, cold climate. Now we're blessed with some great views on site. This is my south facing view. I really wanted to capture that in my big picture windows. And then to my east, I got the Gore Range, and I was lucky enough to capture this sunrise one morning. So blending that into my floor plan was a big deal. I eventually came up with this site plan where I was able to locate a primary house down lower here and my dad's house, which we're renting on VRBO, up a little bit up higher. Then I had to kind of connect the two with some a driveway, as well as meeting some requirements from the fire department on being able to turn around, have some on-site water. I got a little crazy in the beginning and I wanted to put in this big pond and water feature, and I even got a water right since I have Alkali Creek running through my property. But then in turn, later on, it looked like it was a little too much of a project and a little bit of a budget buster. So we kind of changed out to a little bit of on-site water tank to store that water for the fire department. So here's my floor plan of the primary house. Like I said, the lot's gently sloping to the east, and so we wanted to do a split level house. That kind of helped with some of the existing grades that were on site. So here we have, over here would be the main level and entry, but then you could come down to the lowest level. And we have a walkout basement here to a patio and a lawn area. And then I have a crawl space here. That's kind of where I put a bunch of mechanical and storage. And that's where I brought in all the water entry. And this basement area does a good job of corralling the kids and giving me a little bit of peace and quiet from time to time. Connecting it to the main level floor plan, you can see the stairs here and how it's kind of a split level, and you kind of go down half a flight of stairs to that low level we just looked at. or you could go up half a flight of stairs to 3 bedrooms above for the kids and a guest room. The main entry is kind of by the garage, and I didn't want to do a door from the garage to the house. I kind of wanted to keep that garage air out of the house, but have a little covered entry. We have a mudroom entry here that works really well. And then as you come through, you can kind of see that big view of the Sawatch Range through my big southern facing windows right here. Our kitchen's attached to the living room, entertaining room. And then keeping the master bedroom suite away from the kids was another feature I wanted to do, just to give me a little extra few more minutes away from the kids when I needed it. And then we put a attached greenhouse here, which is about 6 feet by 10 feet, and slowly worked in a hydroponic greenhouse system there. So we kind of broke ground, got going, and I showed you that first picture from above. And now here's the picture of the primary house down low with my dad's house up above here. Some of the things I didn't mention on the floor plans was we did some straw bale construction. That turns to be a nice, real thick wall. We can kind of see it in some of the window jambs, door jambs. Ends up being about a 22-inch thick wall. The R value on that's about 42. It's nice to use just a natural material, and we covered it with about 2 inches of plaster on either side, a natural plaster system. Some of the other framed walls and in the roof, I did all spray foam. So I did an exterior continuous insulation zip panel, and then another 2 inches of spray foam. And then I had to fill the remainder of the cavity with bat insulation. As we got that all kind of super insulated, I did some blower door testing to kind of see where I was, and then sealed a few more holes. And then at the end, we were able to, when the home was move-in ready, we got below 1 air change per hour for the house. Some of the other things, we tried to do a little bit of burning in and kind of position the garage on the north side that's unheated. That kind of acts as a buffer to some of the colder air coming out of the north and the west. And then being below grade construction, like in front of this kitchen window here, grade is about 6 inches below the windowsill. And that kind of helps temper a little bit with some of the temperature swings. So I mentioned, you know, the large south-facing windows to capture that Sawatch view and be able to bring in that winter sun. So, you know, we did proper overhangs to try to bring in the winter sun when we wanted it, but then during summer months, when the sun is higher up in the sky, that overhang kind of blocks it. And this leaves for a nice daylit house. We don't really get the overheating late day, because we don't have too many western facing windows, but it's nice not to have lights on all during the day either. One really unique thing I put in the house is a masonry heater. So it's a wood burning fireplace, and we have a burn chamber down on the bottom here, and then a pizza bake oven on the top. So once a day, I'll load this up with about 10 pieces of wood and some kindling on top, and then I've figured out how to light it up and kind of keep it going. And once it gets going, it's really, there's combustion air that's brought through, and this thing really just starts cranking out heat. You can kind of walk by it and you'll feel a blast of heat kind of coming out that glass door. And what I'm amazed at is even 24 hours later, when I start the next fire, I put my hand in that burn chamber and it's still about 200 degrees. Something nice is even when it's fully cranking, that masonry river rock is not hot to the touch. And that pizza oven makes one really nice pizza, I'll tell you, and make some nice bread in there as well. One cool thing about it is with that combustion air coming in, it fully combusts that wood. So like I said, I have a fire almost every day of the year, and I'd only have to clean out about a can full of ashes once or twice a year, because this wood gets fully combusted and burns at such a high rate. So that's kind of nice for a wood burning device. Now on the western side, I did this hydroponic greenhouse. It was kind of my coronavirus project when we got quarantined. Up on the sidewall here, we are growing a whole bunch of lettuces and some strawberries on the bottom, and then some different lettuces on the bottom, some big wild tomato plants on the left-hand side, a few bean plants in the back and kale plants. And it took a little while to kind of get up and going, but now this produces about 10 salads a week or so. And it's only maybe an hour or two a week to really kind of harvest and prune. And you know, what's nice about gardening inside is all your final product doesn't get covered in dirt or anything. So you don't even have to wash the lettuce off. Another thing I incorporated in my house is all my exterior siding is made out of beetle kill wood. That's a local problem here. This is a tinted lifetime stain that's applied, and then I did a heat treated application afterwards. And I believe I should not have to touch it again for a whole long time. It's not something I hopefully won't have to maintain very much. So it's aging pretty nicely after 2 winters. To the right is my straw bale wall with an exterior plaster system on it. Then I mentioned we're all electric, so it's nice to hear some of the other projects where this is getting incorporated into. You guys talked a little bit about how we have an outdoor condenser. You know, something nice about being all electric is I don't have a combustible gas piped all through my house and then put into a burn chamber, and hopefully it's captured all the venting from it and goes out the roof. It's also nice not to have a big gas meter hanging off the side of my building or a propane tank in the front yard. And you know, going into this, I was nervous. It's a little bit new technology. You hear it stops working at -15, -20 degrees. So a little bit nervous there. So I took some precautions with that super insulating. I put some backup heaters on the ducted areas of the house. But you know, after 2 winters, I can say it has not been one issue whatsoever in getting up to my set point temperatures. This whole system's run on programmable thermostats, so it kind of turns down during the night, then ramps up in the mornings when we wake up. As we leave for work, it just kind of shuts itself off because we turn the set points down. And then a half an hour before we come home, we turn the heat back on, and it's nice and toasty until we go to sleep again, and it kind of turns itself down. You know, so going all electric, you know, I'm used to building a radiant in-floor heating system. So to compensate for that, we did some heat mat underneath the tile in the bathrooms. It's on a programmable thermostat, and, you know, that's about 100% efficient, since all that heat that's going in is, you know, making its way into the house. And that's on programmable thermostats. So, you know, it's nice to have a nice tile floor that's warm in the morning when we take a shower. So I have a combination of some ducted units as well as some ductless units. I'll show you in a little bit later. On the big thing hanging off the top right is a backup electric heater in case it was ever needed. Like I was saying, I've been there for 2 winters. In the first winter, we had some -20 spells in the morning, and my set points would be at 68, and my house would heat up to about 66. So wasn't quite keeping up, but it's definitely not something that I was too concerned about. So some of the larger rooms in the house, like the great room and then our master bedroom, are with the ducted systems. We tied our ERV into this system, so fresh air is being brought in through the ductwork. We also exhaust all the air out of the bathrooms. You know, some areas where you kind of get a little humidified from the showers, or, you know, the toilets can start smelling a little bit. So it's I thought that was a pretty nice way to do it. It's all on an adjustable percentage timer. So if we feel like we need a little more fresh air or less fresh air, we can kind of adjust that as well. In some of the bedrooms up top, we did these ductless units where I did a ceiling register. Luckily enough, my plaster system on the walls just kind of matched the trim kit for it. But these systems are great for smaller areas, we can zone that room independently. So if someone's not staying in our guest bedroom, we can kind of shut that down, and it's programmable as well. So we heat it up in the mornings and when we get back. One thing that comes as a benefit of an air source heat pump is you get air conditioning. And I never really thought I would ever need air conditioning, but now that I have it in some hot August nights, it's just such a wonderful thing to have. We kept with the same air source heat pump technology for our water heater. This is an 80-gallon tank in the crawl space, and that's provided continuous hot water for us. You can really feel the heat pump technology working in this closed space. This unheated room is definitely a lot cooler than the room next to it. And one interesting side note I did was this fan to the left of it, below the black arrow, is on a thermostat that I'm pulling hot attic air as it makes its way up the house. And as this room hits 50 degrees, it turns on a fan and pulls that attic air down into the crawl space. And then this air source heat pump hot water tank kind of takes that heat, and then that heat kind of makes its way back up through the house once again.
Hey, Chris, just really quick time check. We got
Okay.
about 2 more minutes.
Okay, very good.
Thanks.
Downside to all electric is electric fireplace. I was lucky enough to kind of find one that I think was aesthetically pleasing here. We did induction cooktops in the kitchen. I think this one turned out pretty nice, and you'll be pretty amazed with how fast hot water heats up. Now, a downside to living in the mountains is you need heat tape. I did this heat tape timer control that turns it on only during the daytime when water is melting. And I have 26 panels on my roof facing south, or about an 8 kilowatt system that gives me about half of my energy usage. My first year's energy cost after the solar PV was about $900 for a 3,500 square foot house, livable. Having a great electrical provider like Holy Cross, we're now paying an additional $76 a year, and that energy we purchase is all green power. A few other items I wanted to mention is all our appliances are Energy Star, or 100% LED lighting that's controlled by Amazon Alexa and apps on Wi-Fi switches, and we can leave the house and say, Alexa, turn off all lights, rather than me going around, running around and turning off lights. I sorted much of the on-site river rock from the excavation. I used it in the masonry and landscaping, and I needed to buy just a little additional material. I was very efficient in ordering all my materials. I'm proud to say I had only one 40-yard dumpster leave this job site for building my dad's house and my house. In truth, I burned a lot of wood on site, and I made a few runs in my truck, but I think that's pretty amazing. All the plumbing's low flow fixtures. The carpets are made out of recycled PET plastic bottles. The concrete floor is very durable, eliminating need for an additional flooring. Our garage is wired for an electric vehicles, and I can't wait for some affordable electric trucks to come out. We fully compost and recycle. We're planning on expanding our outdoor gardening this summer by lot and start beekeeping and install a small orchard. In the future, we may even raise some chickens. That's kind of it for my project. Appreciate all you guys taking the time to listen to it. A couple things I want to highlight is just that air source heat pump working extremely well. The benefit of having air conditioning is pretty awesome. That heat tape timer, I'd say it was installed for less than $500, and it paid for itself in about a year. That spray foam insulation, it pays for itself really quickly as well. And just if anybody working in the construction management fields, I'd just say bring up green building right away, make it a topic, and start discussing early on and see how you can kind of bring it into projects. If anybody has any questions, I want to open it up, and I'm going to give you my contact information if anybody wants to come out and see the house or have any further questions.
Thanks so much, Chris. I think we've got time for one question, and it was dropped in the chat. Martin asked, did you pick high performance windows like Alpin?
I went with a Pella product. It's a fiberglass window. The cost was helped with my, overall cost and budget concerns, and it had an insulated frame. It's a double pane window, and so far I've been very impressed with it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chris. In the interest of time, I'm going to keep us moving along, but please continue to drop questions for Chris in the chat if you want, or grab his email that's up on the screen. All right. Chris, do you mind if you stop sharing your screen really quick and I can pass it off to our next presenter?
Did that do it?
No, it did not.
Stop share.
There it goes. Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. Okay, so our next presentation is from the Eagle River Water and Sanitation District on their HVAC retrofit. So the Eagle River Water and Sanitation District are going to be presenting on their recently retrofitted HVAC system intended to maximize energy reduction and comfort in the administration building. The district worked directly with Wesley Plouffe of BG Building Works, who completed an electrification study capturing the energy and cost differences between our previous system, constant volume rooftop units with standard efficiency gas heating and VVT configuration, and the new variable refrigerant flow heat pump system with energy recovery units. So I'm going to turn it off to Kira and Mark with the Eagle River Water and Sanitation District, and Wesley with BG Building Works. Why don't you guys take it away? Thanks so much.
Thanks, Kim. Hi, everybody. I am Kira Koppel. I'm the Sustainability Coordinator for Eagle River Water and Sanitation District. We usually just call it the district, just so you all don't have to repeat that. But today we are going to share with you, Wes is going to share with you mostly the results of the electrification study that was done for our Vail admin building, specific to the HVAC system. It's an older system. We've had complaints about discomfort and offices being too cold. And after we read the drawdown book in our sustainability book club, I know our general manager, Lynn Brooks, was really interested in looking into electrification and what it would really take to start that process. So that's what we'll go through. I'm going to pass it off to Mark, since he was the point person from the district on this project. I'll just let him introduce, and then Wes will take it from there.
Hi, everybody. Thanks to Walking Mountains for putting this together. I was tasked with evaluating our existing HVAC system, and I really spent a lot of time reviewing qualifications from different engineers, and we found that BG Building Works fit what we needed to help us with this study. We were pretty impressed with them, and I'd like to introduce Wes Plouffe, BG Building Works, and he will take us through a PowerPoint.
All right. Well, thanks for the introductions. I'm Wes. I've been working as an engineer in the building industry for almost 30 years now. It's my only professional job since college. It's all I do. I have a focus on energy conversion and power plant design from college, actually, and haven't used that. Instead, went into the building field and have been using applied building science to help people with their projects as my career. I got more initials after my name than I care to even tell you about, but I've dropped them all because I don't really think all that stuff matters so much anymore. But this is all I do. So I guess I want to preface that I'm a math guy, I'm a details guy, I'm an engineer, and we did a project. Eagle River came to our firm and said, hey, we want to put a VRF system in our admin building. And I said, that's great. We just had gotten done doing that for some buildings in the city of Westminster down in the Denver area. And we were able and fortunate enough to help them work towards developing a VRF system to replace what I would call a poor man VAV system. But that's a constant volume with a bypass versus actual fans that vary for those who are unfamiliar with the slang. But that's not what we're here to talk about. So we got involved in that project. And then along the way in that project, right as we were starting to build, Eagle River came back with this initiative for electrification and said, hey, we're very interested in understanding this. We want to know what it would take. We have this existing building, and we want to know what it would mean and what it would look like to take this existing building all electric. So if we start the PowerPoint presentation, I want to tell you a little bit about what we looked at there, what we learned, how we did that analysis, and what the results were. And Kira, I don't know if, yep, there we go. Kira's starting it. Great. So what, again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to look at practical ways to convert this existing building to an all-electric system. And what we had was a 13,000 square foot area of the Eagle River Water and Sanitation District building in Bale. We started looking at that existing systems that were there, and we had to develop different permutations to get off of gas. We had a lot of things that were using gas. So we looked at different ways to do it, thinking maybe it would need to be staged, or, trying to allocate the, how much gas is being used by different things that are using gas, how much electricity. And as we improve those things over time, what would the changes and results theoretically be? Now, this is a great job in a way. This is a theoretical job, and it's mostly theoretical right now, done through engineering analysis and software. But what we did do is we did use engineering load software to really do a full analysis of the building, and we accurately modeled the existing systems, and we went towards the all-electric system variants that we would like to analyze. And we did a full-scale energy model, 8760 analysis every hour of the year. And then we backtracked and looked at, well, how much do we use between these system options that use gas and electricity, and how's the carbon get produced off of that? So if we head to the next slide there. The part of it is we pulled all those utility bills again. We surveyed, oops, I think we lost our PowerPoint. We surveyed the buildings, and there was still a few things that burn gas. We had original boilers, and this was a fun building because here's a picture of it. You probably all know it, being from the area. I didn't tell you guys, but I moved to Eagle Valley when I was 17 in 93, and I actually was a resident in Eagle Valley for about 8 years too. But this is the Eagle River Water Sand District right there in Vale. A lot more crowded there when I lived there, but it's still there. And what we had was expansions. This is an amoeba building that got expanded over time, retrofit over time as systems aged, and you kind of had this mixture of things going on. So we had an original boiler system that was still serving fan coils. We had the brand new ERV we just replaced during the VRF project that was burning gas. At the time, we made the decision to utilize gas because the existing equipment there was gas. The rough-in was there for gas. Electrification was not a discussion or goal at the time the project started, probably till about 2 weeks after we got the submittal approved back out the door to the contractor to build it. That's what I think the timing works. So
oh yeah,
we missed it by about 2 weeks, but we live and learn, and we got a good piece of equipment there. It's still highly efficient. Other systems that burn gas, we had boiler systems that ran baseboard in the new wing, and then we had some domestic water heating systems that burn gas. So we went ahead and we looked at taking these things that burn gas and turning the boilers to either an electric boiler. We looked at doing some electric duct heaters and some existing fan coils, because if we're to take the hydronic heating coils out, we need to kind of heat, and all in all, it was about 9 different permutations. And so this guy on the bottom left, he's my challenging cohort, Moriarty, and he's maybe asking me what you're thinking. Why didn't we do heat pumps? And the answer to that is because it was an existing building, and heat pumps would have involved a major retrofit. And we were trying to kind of easily replace pieces of equipment without doing a full-scale system change. So that was why we didn't have heat pumps in this list. Heat pumps would be another great all-electric system that we could have looked at that would probably be, that would definitely have to be in consideration if this was a brand new building today. So moving on in the process, we had all these permutations. We looked at utility bills, and we looked closely at utility bills, and I always look closely at utility bills. I am an energy guy. Holy Cross is better than the national average as far as how much carbon its electricity produces. But I actually do look at how do we break down, because we got to remember, if we're using a lot of carbon to produce electricity, we got to really think about that as we talk about this discussion, to understand what it means and how we develop this process of electrification. Eagle River, side note, they buy gas at a really good rate from CenterPoint Energy. It's a very low rate, and it's a bulk rate that typical consumers don't see, but since they're able to purchase for all their facilities, they are able to get a really good rate on gas. And electricity, these are the 2019 charges from Holy Cross. And so these are the rates we used for cost analysis as we went through this analysis. So moving on, let's get to talking about what we learned, because this is always a fun one for a lot of people. While we learned that we can use less electricity, and if you look at this table and you break it down, you could look at every step of the way. But I started off saying, what's this original building? And by original, it was the pre-2020 VRF renovation, when we still had the poor man VAV on the existing building, all the other existing systems, and then all the way to option 5, which is when we electrified everything. And we can see we're actually able to get this done for less equivalent energy, whereas we were using about 300 and 300 on a predicted energy model, equivalent kilowatt hours, gas and electricity, combining into an all electric system. We're able to get down to 562. So 630 to 562, that's a reduction of about probably 10%. Interesting stuff. So if we look at the next slide on results, we can talk about money and costs, which is another item. Electrification is not modeled in this scenario to be cheaper. And it's not always, that's not the goal of electrification. We'll talk about that in a second, but I want you guys to see that through predictive modeling, we actually are going to pay $43,000 a year, $44,000 a year to run this building, whereas we were only paying $29,000 a year. It's about $1,000 more a month in cost. So let's go to the next slide. We'll also maybe I'll be showing some stuff here and be not a black sheep, but singing a different song than other people. I looked at the carbon that's produced from the production of electricity and how much carbon is actually produced by burning the natural gas. And gas, when it burns, it's mostly methane, and it burns pretty clean, and it produces a very predictable amount of 0.39 pounds of carbon dioxide per kilowatt hour produced. Well, through the statistical data published by Holy Cross, published by electric utilities, published by NREL, we actually produce a heck of a lot more carbon dioxide making electricity than we do burning it with natural gas. So in heating dominant climates, we want to really think about, if carbon dioxide's the reduction, we really can't do it all alone in the building without thinking about what's transmission and distribution look like. So my Moriarty down there, he's going to say, hey, this is very vague. You didn't do anything with extraction. We didn't do anything with distribution. You're not talking about the global warming potential of refrigerants and how much carbon that produces. And he's right. This analysis is just looking at the kilowatt hours and the therms of energy used in the building. We actually do use carbon. We create carbon as we distribute our energy, and we create carbon as we extract our energy. So, looking at it all in the buildings, it's nice and convenient, but it doesn't really give you the whole big picture. I'm giving us a convenient building analysis to kind of talk about and think about here. So let's go to the next slide. And you know, what do we learn? And out of this, here's what what I learned and what I'll leave you with. All electric does not mean less carbon production. It actually can mean more carbon production today. And I'm going to stress that today. And it's very important to think about that as we continue and moving forward. Point two, all electric can cost more to operate and produce carbon. We're modeling this to not only create more carbon, we're modeling this to cost more today. But we got to think about what we're doing and where we're going with an industry. Natural gas is a limited resource. We will run out. They say we're going to run out in 70 years. I bet you our scientists will discover some sort of shale fracking technique for gas like oil, extend its life cycle, but it's supposed to run out in 70 years. When it runs out, we're going to have bigger electric transmission, distribution, and production issues to deal with than we have on the building level. But, and I can show you a slide towards the end of this presentation. It's a fun slide. But, you know, one thing we need to be aware of is that as we migrate towards a renewable energy climate, and as we develop green power and our grids get cleaner and cleaner, now electrification really will produce less carbon, and it will also it will be less in cost likely too. I can't predict that. I'm not a utility provider, but we need to understand that. I want to stress that in doing this, that even though I'm coming off saying, hey, it's more expensive and it's more carbon, and those are very real numbers, the reason we're doing this is because as we get to that renewable source, it's going to be much better. Gas will run out. Today, paying more for electricity helps your utility company fund renewable programs for production incentives to help give people incentives to electrify. So we need to understand that this additional cost also helps fund this economy and fund this evolution a little bit, in that it is getting us to a better place. So I hope that I'm the one person here who maybe is saying, look, this is all great stuff, but it's not always, it's not necessarily there yet. If your utility company in your locale gives you 100% renewable, it's there for you. Most utility companies don't have that, and they don't have that on average. So all this data, not most of it, all of the data, except my calculations, but on how much carbon is produced, it's readily available through NREL. And that's about it for the presentation. I'd like Kira, if you don't mind throwing up that last slide while we take questions, because it's a fun one to look at. And I think I've done a lot of talking, and I want people to see the energy river diagram.
Yeah, sure.
So,
I'm just going to say a few things before we jump back in, if that's okay, just
yeah.
to wrap up what we did end up going with. I think Kim announced this at the beginning, but the option we did go with was the VRF upgrade. So we could have localized heating and cooling and dedicated zones in each office. So you can see just a picture of that on this slide. These two pictures, in a way that we are kind of bridging this gap now is by looking at the opportunity to offset our electricity emissions with the Holy Cross's Pure program. So the district offsets all of our electric use with wind power through that, because we do have the opportunity to do that with electricity, whereas right now with natural gas, that's not an option through our provider. And the last thing, I did want to just give a little plug and a thank you to Holy Cross. We also got a $19,245 rebate for this project, which also helps with some of that cost differential that we've run into. But I will flip it to this next slide while we take questions.
Thanks so much, Kira and Wesley. That was an awesome presentation. And just in the interest of time, again, I'm sorry, I hate that I'm cutting us off of questions, but we had one question in the chat from Richard Mills. Did you do a solar and or battery cost comparison, or solar battery cost comparison?
We did not do a solar battery cost comparison. The goal wasn't to necessarily be renewable. The goal was to be electric. So we looked at electrifying not producing solar on site. I mean, I think solar is great and everyone should consider it. And if you saw that last slide, I didn't pepper in, but my prediction for where we really need to go as an industry is we've got to look at more on-site generation. The biggest losses come from transmission right now. And we're going to run into a generation and storage problem with electricity. So looking at how we handle that stuff on site is going to be very important for the next 20 years of buildings if we really want to make productions here. And that would include solar, of course, on the building, as to your question.
Yeah, last thing I'll say is we are looking into that for the future. So it's in our future plans, but not this specific project. So if that provides any clarification too.
Awesome. Well, Kira, Wesley, thank you guys so much. It was an awesome presentation, and appreciate you guys being here today to share your process.
Thank you.
And yeah. And so last but not least, I'd like to announce our last presenter. We've got Todd Collins from AE Building Systems, and he's going to be sharing about his home in Golden. So he's been slowly retrofitting his 1971 Golden home. The process has spanned 9 years, and he's not only improved the comfort of his home, but also lowered his utility bills from $2,200 a year to about $400 a year. So Todd will discuss what he's done, the results over time, and what he still plans to do to get to all electric and near zero energy. Todd plans to share information related to low-hanging fruit, some building science principles, and other important considerations. So please give it up for our last speaker of the day, Todd Collins. I'll let you take it away, Todd. Thanks. Todd, if you're talking, you are muted. So sometimes, Todd, when you share your screen, the bar will pop up along the top of for the unmute.
There we go.
All right, there he is. Hey, Todd.
Sorry.
You're good.
All right. So it is just in regards to our 1971 tri-level. Our goal is to get to all electric and zero energy. I say it's eating our own dog food because I'm in the industry. I'm about helping builders and architects make high performance, low energy homes, but also help homeowners to retrofit their homes. So we bought the house in 2011. It is really 4 levels, not 3 levels. We have a basement below the 4th level, I guess, at the bottom. It's old school 2x4 construction, fiberglass bats, very poorly done. It had low performance windows. They weren't the original aluminum single pane, but they were pretty bad still. You could hear them rattle. So some other things for setting the stage. The previous owners were older. They were retired. They're likely at the house most of the time. They also kept the house warmer in the winter, cooler in the summer, and the estimated overall annual cost to heat and cool and the electrical loads was about $2,200 plus or minus per year. And that's information that I've kind of backed into from the audit. They gave me some data points. They couldn't share everything for privacy reasons. But when we moved in, our kids were 1 and 3 and those bedrooms were cold. They had, out of 6 sides, 4 were cold. The floor is cold, the ceiling's cold, and 2 walls were cold. So really it was about us sleeping through the night, them sleeping through the night so we could sleep through the night and making our house more comfortable. So some other setting the stage, it's forced air, gas furnace, gas water heater. They did already install a programmable thermostat. They had a reasonably new dishwasher, reasonably new electric range. Something that's important is our consumption. We keep the temperature in the winter 68 in the evenings and the mornings when the house is occupied. Only 60 during the day and night. I work from home, so 60 during the day, I just put on an extra layer and call it good. Well, and of course, until the pandemic and things changed, the very end there. So I'll get into this chart a little bit more, but this is the energy use over time. So this is 2010 and this was 2020. But it's really important also to note that energy prices, it continue to go up, and our usage has largely continued to go down. So some of the first things prior to audit, 2011, we replaced the fridge. The fridge was Montgomery Ward, and I'm not sure Kim is old enough to even know what Montgomery Ward is. So Montgomery Ward, in short, the old refrigerators, if they're more than 20 years old, get rid of them and you will get a payback. Not just a new fridge, but they will pay back because you're using less energy. Recommended to upgrade your technology in the fridge area. We did renovate the kitchen just last year, and we did buy a new fridge. We sold that one to a School of Mines student. We also started immediately changing out all the incandescents to CFLs. We did experiment with some LEDs, but 2011 LEDs were still pretty white and blue and not very soft, not the greatest. And we did a new garage door because the one that was in the house, the two doors were really bad and starting to fall apart. And there's more information on that. They were leaky, falling apart, very low R value, no glass. And we went with an R12 polyurethane filled aluminum doors. And interestingly enough, you know, it had better seals, had LED light. Well, it had CFL lights and we put in LEDs. But interestingly enough, in the winter, the garage is warmer than it should be. And that's because the garage doors are actually insulative and they hold the heat in, and we're losing heat through the walls into the garage. So, and through the bedrooms above and into the garage. So, you know, it's kind of cool that the garage is warm because the doors are better than they were, but it's also, it's the good thing, bad thing. The bad thing is the garage is warmer because we're losing all this heat through our walls. But it just gives you an example. So 2012, we did the audit, and this is some of the information we got back. This is information about a typical average usage. So typical home average usage is less than what our monthly average usage was back in 12. And that's on electricity, but on gas, we were better. But note that our house is only 2,100 square feet, where the average was 2,500 square feet. So we had a smaller house and we were less efficient, with the exception of gas. So in short, well, no, better said is there were some top priorities. Air sealing. You lose 30 to 40% of your energy or your heat energy through air infiltration. Just goes right out your walls because you've got little cracks and holes everywhere. So that was one of the big things. On the electric side, you know, is phantom loads. It was Energy Star certified appliances. There were some other minor things, but when you get your audit, you should get a document like this, and it includes what's first priority, big bang for the buck for low dollars. And then second priority might be, okay, we get decent bang for the buck, the price might be a little bit higher. And then third priority are, these are expensive and, you know, you're going to get a bang for the buck, but will it pay for itself? Not necessarily. And then you'll get something that'll say, all right, you really don't need to do anything here. So if you don't have that in your audit, you should. So some of the low-hanging fruit stuff from the audit that we did right away was we wrapped the water heater. $40, it's easy to do. And it helps keep your domestic hot water heater from losing heat into the space. It stays in the water. We put in power strips to get rid of phantom loads. So when we turn our TV off, we turn off our power strip off, not our TV. And that cuts the electricity to the TV completely. So there's no phantom load there. We got a new washer and dryer. That was about $1,400. That not only saves power, but it also saves water. It also helps to save your clothes because a front loading washer is not as hard on your clothes as, you know, an agitator top loading washer. So something to think about. That was also because the washer and dryer that came with the house died. So if you're going to replace it, do it right. Get the more energy efficient ones. Some other low-hanging fruit. We actually taped up the gas fireplace. Here's the tape and the air barrier that we put on it. When you sat in front of the gas fireplace, air was coming through the chimney and down and leaking right into the family room, and it was super cold. It was not efficient whatsoever. We put in new ceiling fans in all the bedrooms, 2 in the living room, dining room, and then another in our family room. And that just makes the house more comfortable in the summertime. Really simple. And these are super high efficient ECM, DC based ceiling fans. And we also taped up the old duct work to make the furnace more efficient in providing comfort to our spaces. So we hired a contractor to do the rest pretty much of the audit stuff. And that includes a lot of air sealing. They put in a new bath fan above the attic so that, you know, when they sprayed in all the new cellulose, they wouldn't have to, we wouldn't have to replace the bath fan down the road. Just get it done now. And it's, again, another DC ECM blower, high performance, low energy use. They insulated both the skylights and the knee walls with blanket insulation. They also did a lot of air sealing around junction boxes, the gabled in walls. They also put in an attic hatch dam. So the idea behind that is to hold back the insulation. So when you push the attic hatch up, the insulation just doesn't come flowing back into your, at you. So literally have like a 2-foot dam, and we went to R65, maybe 18 inches of insulation in our attic, and it made a tremendous difference. Also, they insulated the attic hatch itself. They put 10 inches of recycled polyiso on top of the attic hatch. So now we have 10 inches of insulation on top of both of our attic hatches. The things that were beyond the attic were the bottom plate. They foamed our bottom plate where they could, and then they drilled and filled above our garage, which means they drilled a hole, stuck a hose in, and then sprayed insulation in the joists to increase the insulation between the garage and the bedrooms above the garage. So it made those bedrooms warmer, in short. The big dollar items that we did to reduce energy use, big one was 3.9 kilowatts of solar, and that took care of all of our energy use, all of our electricity use. And that's not a big system. And then in 2015, and that was about 15 grand installed. Then we, in 2015, replaced all the windows and doors. I like this window pictured in the upper right-hand corner because it shows snow stuck to the window. And the interesting thing about that means that heat's not conducting and melting that snow. It's staying there. And it stayed there for a long time. So these are really good high-performance windows that don't conduct energy to the outside like most windows do. They're European style. It's a UPVC product, tilt turns for the operables, and they work really well. They also make the house super quiet because they're super airtight. Some additional items in 2019, I insulated with continuous insulation, mineral wool, all the walls of my basement. I office in the basement, and it's cold down here because there's a lot of thermal bridging from the outside to the inside. So well, better said, the inside to the outside. The heat's escaping the house through the concrete. So this insulation made a tremendous difference in comfort. We also taped the bottom plate to reduce air infiltration on the bottom plate. And then most recently, as we did a kitchen remodel, we replaced the old electric resistance range with an induction cooktop, convection oven instead of electric, new fridge. We sold the other one, new dishwasher, and then we put in Nest thermostat as well. And that's a little bit better in that it's a learning thermostat. And then we're pretty much all LEDs now. We've got a couple CFLs left and some ceiling fans, but that's it. This picture to the right here shows the heat loss from our basement to the exterior. You see how it's lining up orange? That's heat coming straight out of our basement and going right through the concrete. It's awful. And that's the picture of the sidewalk and the edge of the concrete right here. So back to this. So by projects, first, we did some LEDs, a fridge. We also reduced our consumption by lowering our usage. And over those 2 years, we went from about 2,200 to about, for less than 1,000, less than 900 a month. We went back up, and that might be a seasonal thing because, you know, it's colder one year, hotter in the summer, and we're using more electricity for AC or whatever. That delta is not significant enough to say there's anything causing it. But we put in the ceiling fans, the washer and dryer. And then we did solar, and we started whittling down our energy use even more and more. In 2017, we hit $385 for the whole year. That's fixed fees, everything included. We started going back up largely because our solar went down in 2019 for 4 months, and we didn't know it until we got a bill because it chewed through all of our reserves. We were netting out and basically running the meter backwards. Well, in 4.5 months, we ate through all of our reserves, and then we got a bill, and we're like, what the heck? What's this? What? And it went down a couple more times. There were some other hiccups, and we finally figured it out. But in 2020 pandemic, we're using more energy. Kids are home, more lighting, more heating, more cooling. So we're back up to almost 500 again. So we still have a number of issues. We haven't done a very good job of insulating and air sealing our outlets. We still have some thermal bridging at the corners of our ceilings. You can see the studs in our walls here, going vertically here. That's thermal bridging, so we're losing heat there. This is our basement wall, or actually our family room, and that's why it's so cold. You can see all the energy coming out of the concrete. Here's the window. And it's so much better. It's cold because you want it to be cold. This should be blue as well, and it's not. So future, to get to all electric and zero, we still have a gas water heater, and the goal is to go to a heat pump hot water heater, and that'll go, it's currently gas, so we go to electric. And then same with the furnace. The way I look at it, they're not broke. Why put them in the landfill? Let's use them until they get to closer to end of life, and then replace them and, basically do it right. So we'll do a whole house air source heat pump, likely a Mitsubishi with electric resistance backup. So when it gets really cold, and that'll likely be in the next 5 years. The water heater we'll do in the next year or two. Family room, we got to relocate some ducts. That family room's so cold. And then we also need to insulate the wall in between the garage and the family room. And then finally, we need to do some additional insulation in the garage because we still have issues. Obviously, I mentioned that it's warm. So, and again, RAV4, we'd like to go zero energy with cars too, but we'll add electric vehicles at some point. We plan to do a continuous insulation layer on our exterior walls as well, all of them, and not everywhere because we have brick and we're not going to do that, but where there's siding. And then we'll go with more solar to go zero energy, the whole house, everything. And then what would I have done differently? This is the opposite of what you should do, but I would have done solar first because that would have given me a much bigger system. I already made a bunch of energy upgrades, and the biggest system we could go was 120% to get all the federal rebates. So if I would have gone solar first, I could have got a much bigger system, and I'd be able to go zero energy without having to go more solar in another couple of years when we're ready to go all zero energy. So if we would have done solar first, I'm thinking we probably would have had enough offsets to go zero without increasing our solar down the road. One thing I would have done in the attic differently was cleared it completely out, cleaned all the insulation out, and started with foam at the perimeter and at the partition walls, at the top of the partition walls, because that would have helped seal everything and insulate better those spots, and then filled the rest of it with cellulose. Would have been more expensive, but I think more effective. It still worked really well. It made a big difference in the comfort of the house. This perlite under the sidewalk is a long story, and I'm not going to go into it, but if anybody wants to learn more about perlite, I'd be happy to chat. And then, of course, I would have won the lottery, so I could have done it all at once instead of over time. So I think I'm within my 15 minutes or so. My number's here. This is my work line. Feel free to give me a call if you have additional questions on certain items. And thank you for listening.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Todd, for that awesome presentation. And we have time for one question for Todd. If anyone's got one, feel free to unmute or drop it in the chat.
What size building is this?
Right around 2,100 square foot. That includes the basement.
That was an easy question, so we'll give you one more. All right, well, hearing none, no worries if you think of a question later. There is Todd's contact information. I'll be sure to send out the emails and phone numbers of all of our awesome presenters today in follow up to this event, along with the YouTube recording of the event, so you guys can go back and check it out or share it with anyone in your networks. So thank you so much again to all of our presenters today. So much good content, and we will be reaching out with our next hopefully Q2 event, which will likely still be virtual, but we'll maybe see you guys in person towards the end of the year. So thanks everyone for joining tonight, and hopefully we'll see you guys soon. Take care.